winner of Canada versus Royal Couple of North will be clashing against the Chinese champions in those semifinals. And well, we're gonna have to go to Tim first to hype it up. I think I know which side of this coin he wants to talk about.
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about the Rus a little bit. Why don't we all just talk about the Rus? You know, why not? You know, they got some good units, those horse archers, man. I'll tell you what, if you could be on a horse and you could shoot a bow and then you just continue to ride the horse and then shoot the bow again, oh, praise be. It's so great.
But you know what's better than that, Tim?
What's better than that? Talk to me.
A camel that can shoot and move too.
Oh my god, those lovely humps, let me tell you. You know, every horse that's going to be on the battlefield is going to be scared to death. They see one or two humps, they're like, I got to get the hell out of here, dude.
I think that's why CSO is so good with the Ironbirds. Is like, even though he's Chinese, he probably has like a Chinese ripped version of my humps playing on repeat the entire game. Right? I mean, they have been the bane of these team games' existence, right, Lidico? I think for a while people were trying to make Abbasis work, but then they realized, oh, Ironbirds can just build one unit in a meta that you build one unit, and that one unit seems to do a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. If you wanted to ask me what my favorite or what my go-to team game civilization would be or what should be, I would probably go Iobits. As you highlighted, Desert Raiders, great, but it's also the flexibility that we talked about, the possible combinations that they can go with in terms of the wings, how they can leverage that for hybrid maps, for water maps. They're just good in every single scenario, and having it on your roster is just such a boost. Now, frankly, if there is a map where I have some level of doubt, it's actually Gorge, because this map is just so different from essentially everything else we have in the map pool.
Do you think maybe we get a Chuka Nu Ram Rush type play here, Tim? I mean, you know, it's definitely laid out that way. Chuka Nu close to you is a nightmare for anyone, team game or not.
Yeah, I mean, the potential's there, right? With French and Zushi Legacy together. French, obviously, we know those Royal Knights. They've been haunting our dreams since October of 2021. Zushi's Legacy, with those Zug Nu, you're able to pop them out as quick as you can. You don't need to get Song Dynasty for it. I feel like Zushi, always when compared to China, they felt like more of a tempo civ to me. You know, just because of their ability to get those unique units quicker, right? Their castle age is quicker if they wanted to go an FC route. So there's a couple different avenues they can go, right? French, obviously, they're going to make feudal knights and all of that. Yeah. We're not talking about those anymore. For Zushi, they have the ability to, they could either complement them with Zug Nu, or they can get to castle age in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's see what they choose.
They got all the options in the world. This is going to be a fun one. Canada looking so strong right now that an American defected to their team. On the other side, Royal Couple of North. Will they ever let their adopted Dane son play? I'm not sure. We've got 5 games potentially to see if it's going to happen. Canada versus RCN, and it starts in Gorge.
What a gorgeous way to start this series. Welcome to game number 1 between Royal Couple of the North versus Canada. Dimu and Kiljardi representing Royal Couple of the North in red and orange, and on the other side, Wham and Poppy Paw for Canada in teal and blue.
Yeah, you know, we talk about Gorge a lot, even just in 1v1 setting. This is one of my favorite maps. And in 2v2, it's one of my favorite maps also because of the way that these civilizations spawn. They spawn right next to each other, right? With a big gold mine in the center. So you got to interact with your teammate, right? You have to make sure that your side is very protected. And then when you go out to the gorges, those areas, there's very raidable pockets. So usually this becomes a little bit of chaos. And we can see what civilization spawns in front. Kiljardi's Iabids spawned in front for RCN. And Wham's Zushi Legacy spawned in front, which is really nice. I mean, for Wham, you have that gold in the back that's going to help you along with some of those taxes. You know, hopefully you get enough sheep. And a lot of the times the Zushi base in Dark and Feudal Age isn't really that raidable because of the fact that those sheep and that mill is very close to the town center, Lidicor. So let's see, is Demu and Kiljardi going to be a little aggressive with it? Are they going to try to take down the Zushi, or do they have their own plans? It looks like
I think when you look at this map, and this is something that, you know, I've been talking about a lot, this map is just so different from everything else you have in the map pool. There are some maps where the two teammates spawn next to each other. But there is basically no other maps where one player is definitively to the front and the other one is to the back. That is, one player a lot more exposed to aggression than the other is. So it's going to be interesting to see whether either of these teams go for early aggression and how early that's going to be. Because you can do a lot of damage. The flanks are wide open, and you have a player that towards whom you really don't have to walk a lot. So even slow-moving compositions can do a lot of early damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of it gives you an impression where when it comes to these big battles that are here, they always happen in the gorge, right? Because that's where the money is. So you get like these big clashes in the middle along with some raiding parties along the outside. Wham, Puppy Paw gonna be the first to click that landmark button. Wham, with the meditation garden. It's got a nice berry bush here, a little bit of stone, maybe a couple trees as well. Demu going with a 2 hunting cabin start for the roost, which I've seen is more meta than usual. If you're going 2 scouts, usually 2 hunting cabin is the play, and going to be going up with the Golden Gate. I've raved about it in the previous series. I'm still going to rave about it. I think it's one of the best landmarks out there, and it can help him determine and figure out, based on his opponents, what he wants to do. If he wants to do a fast castle into horse archers, if he wants to do a feudal age and make a bunch of archers, well, it comes remain to be seen. But Killjardy going to be going up with the military wing, so Desert Raiders are going to come out very, very quickly.
Now, this is one of those maps where once the initial pushes stall out, the front lines are actually going to solidify very, very quickly. So we've actually seen 2 kinds of games on Gorge, I feel. Ones that end very quickly because of this early aggression, and ones that drag out a lot. Ones that are really just go into late Imperial, into a slugfest. So I don't know which pair of civilizations benefits from either of these scenarios right here. You do have good late game potential for both. But I think, again, the biggest question mark is going to be what the Zushi player is going to do. That's actually a pretty neat little meditation garden for the circumstances. It's also tucked away at the back, so it's not like you have it on the middle of the field exposed, which is often the case for meditation gardens, open for the opponent to torch it down. This is going to be nice and safe in the back.
Yeah, you see some of those greedy gardens every once in a while, and a lot of the times with Roos having an extra scout, you know, Killjardy with his scout, you could do a little bit of disturbing the peace if you wanted to, reducing what the meditation guards could actually put out. Demu does know that this mill is there from the French. He does know that there's raidable villagers in this potential area. Puppy Paw going to be starting with knights, and oh my god, Lidakor, a Zugnu is getting queued by Wham. They are going to take it to Demu and Killjardy. What do you think about the choice? A second archer rage going down.
Strike quickly and take the initiative of the series. I like this a lot. If there's ever a map where you want to be aggro, or where you can be aggro well, it's probably this one. Now this Jugenu play is going to get scouted immediately, so Demu and Killjardy now know what's coming up, and Killjardy is not far away from clicking up the Castle Age. We've talked about this in the context of the previous series. How much can all-in aggression compensate for, you know, getting cleaned up eventually by superior troops and just a good defensive play? Remains to be seen, but it looks like, for now, Demu and Killjardy will be the defenders against quite a substantial level of aggression here, at least from Wham. Puppy Paw is doing something totally different, though. He's not adding new knights, he's got scouts in queue, and he's coming in with pro scouts.
Yeah, I did see that. I mean, for the French, pro scouts is really nice, right? You don't want to go out to get that food. That's pretty dangerous. Pro Scouts is a little bit cheaper. It's 179 gold instead of 275. Roos obviously going to be going for Pro Scouts as well, as they usually do, especially with the Golden Gate. So there's going to be a little bit of contesting with some of these deer packs. Roos aren't going to get it for free. But look at Killjardy's macro, Lidakor. He's going up to Castle Age now. We have a military count 14-6. We saw this fail 3 times in a row in the last series, right? Is Puppy Paw and Wham, are they going to be able to execute this a little better? Now, Puppy Paw does have pro scouts on his backside. He's got 5 scouts. Demu's got 6, so they're trying to get a bunch of these deer packs kind of at the same time. I think with these Zugnu, if you get enough of them, the Desert Raiders, the free ones that are going to come out for Killjardy, aren't going to be as helpful. He's going to have to switch to Castle Age, some of those Camel Lancers, but it's going to take him time for him to age up.
That's a lot of Jugenu out here, and Jugenu are fundamentally different from the normal kinds of archers that you see these feudal age aggressions be committed with. Because they fire multiple projectiles, they're actually a little bit better against armored units. In fact, they're also they're also better against these buildings. You see, they actually just pepper down that one house right there. It's not the largest level of damage ever done, though, and that kind of means that Killjardy will be allowed to go up the Castle Age. He's about halfway up. And because of how this map is kind of situated, this large gold mine in between the players makes it easy for Killjardy to just safely mine gold. I don't think that Wham has done a lot of damage so far.
No, I mean, it was just that one house, right? They're looking for areas to go. Looks like they turned around. They didn't really see those scouts. And you saw Demu's scout actually dropping off at Killjardy's base to get his food a little safer. I saw a couple red scouts going over there and dropping some off. So that's going to help him out just a little bit as well. Desert Raiders trying to find some stray knights around here from Puppy Paw, but now that he's got the pro scouts, right, he can continue to pump knights. We have a military count 29-8, and this is very different from what we saw the series past. Usually there were military counts that were relatively equal. Now, not so much. When Killjardy hits Castle, he's going to have a problem on his hands, and it's going to be a decent problem. There's Zugnu, there's 2 Rams that are getting built if they aren't built already. Some of these scouts that are trying to get those deer carcasses have to drop away. Eco Wing comes in for Killjardy, so he gets those 8 extra villagers, which is very helpful. But Demu's going Castle Age with it and going for a high trade house. With both of them going fast castle like this, they're not going to have any units to stop it.
I was going to say the same thing. One fast castle is nice and cool, but you see, it takes time to build up these forces, and right now, Killjardy and Demu combined for 7 army units only. Sure, some of them are camels, but even that is not enough. Villagers have to be pulled to deal with the Rams. Things are getting dicey because now, Puppy Paw stopped making scouts for pro scouts. He's now doubling down on knights. This is an all-in aggression, and this is the only production building that Killjardy has. It's gonna be gone in a second. Demu and Killjardy are outnumbered 4-1 right now.
And you know how frustrating that is for Killjardy. That second stable going to be built. Well, now it's the first, technically, because the first one's gone. But where Killjardy's wood line is, it was more north. It was right where all of the aggression was taking place. So Demu had to give him a little wood in order to do that. Now Demu does hit Castle Age. Okay. Killjardy using some of his Desert Raiders that were free to try to pick off some of the reinforcements. Some of those Zugnu that end up going down. You're exactly right about these Zugnu. Instead of just hitting 1 like a normal archer against some of those Camel Lancers, they're going to hit 3, right? So having a decent amount of these, it looks like he's got 21. He's adding some spearmen as well for good measure. That's really going to help. These Zugnu also do pretty well against whatever Demu is going to be trying to go for in Castle Age. Killjardy is housed by 1 million. Well, not technically, it's 16. But he's going to need to build a couple houses that he really doesn't have a lot of good wood for. He's got to build some of these houses. He'd rather not have villagers on wood. He'd rather have villagers on food and gold. Right now, Lidakor, he's got villagers on nothing. Every single IUP villager is running for their life.
This is a timing attack by Wham and Puppy, so taking out the house is immensely valuable. You buy time. Your opponent cannot make Camel Lancers. So many villagers fall here. Killjardy is down to 29. Demu also just down to 32 as opposed to 36 and 40 respectively. And now the Rams are going to converge on those stables. Killjardy is as good as dead at this point.
Oh yeah, I mean, this IUP base is gone. He's trying to build houses to try to get himself there, but he's still pop cap. He's still sitting on 30. He's got 2 Rams, a third one's coming in. Zugnu are continuing to pile up. Knights are continuing to pile up. I think that main town center for him is gone. I mean, he's got the +8 villagers, which is all well and good, but now he's sitting on 29 villagers. So that 8 plus a bunch ended up going down. Demu trying to get enough horse archers to try to stop this. He's got 9 right now. They are good against those feudal knights. Obviously, you can't be able to kite them, but the thing of it is about these horse archers, Lidakor, is you don't want them to take these standalone battles. They want to kite. They want to run. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to take down these spearmen, trying to take down these royal knights over there on the south side. But you can't sit there and fight under a town center. IUP's down 1 landmark.
Yeah, this is the problem. I was going to say the same thing when you said, okay, he's trying to muscle up enough horse archers to stop this. He's never going to stop this with horse archers because foot archers always beat horse archers. If he goes to raid short, it's a nice thing, but he's got a bunch of troops running into his base. They're outnumbered 3-1. And now all the production buildings will be gone for Killjoy. Camel Lancers still cannot commit to this. Spearmen arrived in large numbers as well, so it's not just the Knights anymore to provide a front line, it's also these Spears. And again, the moment these Horse Archers move away from Demu's base, Wham and Puppy will just commit and steamroll his whole base.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right. And, you know, with that last series we talked about over and over again, as the stable goes down again, House of Wisdom, I don't think there's enough books in that house to stop it from going down. It will be going down because it's the only building that's there. But now with Puppy Paw and Wham being aggressive, we saw this in the last series, we saw the aggression and we were like, okay, what did it do? This one, I know what it did. It killed a lot of villagers. It stopped Killjardy pretty much from his plan of the game entirely. So this is massive. And now Puppy Paw and Wham have the idea to essentially right now do what they want. They have the eco lead. If they want to go up to castle, they can. If they want to continue to push the aggression, they can. I think they're at the point of the game where there really isn't a wrong move.
I gotta agree with you. I want to credit Killjoy and Demu, by the way. Killjoy actually just sent a bunch of Camel Lancers to the board to the north. So they are doing what they can with this cavalry force. They're doing the right things. When you're under pressure, just try to raid back. We've seen that in the previous series. The problem is that you need to find a way to clean up this push. Killjoy has no army that can really fight this. And Horse Archers are nice and cool. They're doing a decent job cleaning up these Knights. But Demu needs a tool that deals with the Jugenu. Until he has that, they don't really have comeback potential here. And remember, Killjoy took a gigantic beating. This has to be a full Demu show, basically.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you're relying on Horse Archers to stop a defense, right? For things they want to kite, they want to raid villagers. You can see a lot of them now. He's got 26. He's continuing to push them out. That's the thing about Horse Archers. You can get a lot of them out there, but you're seeing Zugnu just chomp them to bits. Those Camel Lancers for the front from Killjardy, they're going to try to be that front line for him, making sure the Horse Archers can get their pot shots on some of those Knights. So they're standing and taking a fight. They're doing okay right now. Camel Lancers, only 3 or 4 of them now with all those Spearmen gone. That was enough to get this to push back.
And we've seen this in the previous series a lot. Feudal Age pushes, if they stall out, things can turn around very, very quickly. And I gotta credit Demu. He dove in with the Horse Archers, focused down the Spearmen, and Killjoy didn't have a lot. He only had a couple of Camel Lancers, but once the Spearmen were gone, that's all they needed. They're still down by 30 eco, but for the first time in this game, Demu can actually break out of his base with the Horse Archers and start raiding the map. Wham is gone. Royal Institute now coming in here for Puppy Paw. He wants to go to castle, he wants to get those upgrades in, but they're still fighting Camel Lancers. The debuff is still there. A lot of these Knights are heavily banked up as well. This is still a tough position for Demu and Killjoy, but their position improved so much compared to where it was a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, it just goes to show how strong those 3 or 4 Camel Lancers were in that fight. Now Wham trying to wall up in the back, but Horse Archers are going to shoot over those walls. Camel Lancers getting past them. Looks like Puppy Paws, Royal Knights from the north. They don't necessarily want to take this fight right now, but they don't really have much of a choice. They want to make sure that Demu and Killjardy can't get to the base. This battle in the middle of the gorge, those Horse Archers continuing to shoot down Spearmen whenever they can. Now they saw Puppy Paw reach castle, so they're like, okay, this might be our time. They're going to continue to push. Demu doing a great job on his Horse Archer production. He has so many in queue and continuing to have them in queue, so he has a good mass here. He's going to be able to take down a lot of those Royal Knights. And Lidacor, that's so important with that Royal Institute because they want to get Royal Bloodlines. They want to get these really important Knight technologies, but if you don't have Knights on the field, it doesn't make that immediate impact, you know?
I gotta agree with you. Demu is doing the perfect thing right now, focusing down all the Knights before they can really get upgrades. Puppy Paw, on the other hand, managed to salvage 13 Knights here. Royal Bloodlines takes a long time to research, though. It's like a minute 30. Bit of a miss micro here by Demu running into all these spears. But again, right now they just gotta play tile, and they need to look for opportunities to cut into that eco deficit they have. They cannot sustain a 30 villager discrepancy, although Demu is now gathering relics as well. If you're Killjoy, that's kind of the contribution you're going for right now. You don't have many forces. In fact, you have a single Camel Lancer. Focus on recovery and try to find any kind of an eco damage.
Yeah, and I think absolutely taking this fight straight up with the Horse Archers is kind of the antithesis, of what you wanted, right? You want to find villagers. You want to do something. You don't just want to take down and pepper some Zugnu. You're going to get eaten alive, right? But Demu trying to thin out that mass just a little bit. We'll see if they can go around to some of those little resource out pockets. But think of it is, with Puppy Paw getting professional scouts, most of his scouts remained alive. It's going to be difficult for him to find them. There might be a lot of Zushi pockets. You can see them on the map as some of these Royal Knights trying to get a raid from Puppy Paw. We're going to see some Horse Archers going down again. Can't take that fight straight up, moving in the opposite direction. They're looking for things to raid, but there's a distinct difference. The base of Demu and Kajardi, it's still relatively compact. And even though Kiljardi's sitting on 29 villagers, I don't think he's made a villager in quite some time. Hopefully, he could get himself back up there. It's just going to be difficult to do things like a reboom strategy while also getting Camel Lancers to support your buddy.
And I think if you're Kiljardi, you ignore Camel Lancers. Two Camel Lancers will not make a difference. But if you can get a second TC down and get back into this game quickly, that's going to be your ticket back. And he just dropped his second TC, although Wham did as well. So it's not like it's going to be easy for Kiljardi and Demu to recover in terms of economy, but Kiljardi is doing the right thing. If you are Demu, you still need to find villager kills, though, because without it, it's just... This game feels so distant. There is a massive pocket to the far left from Puppy and Wham. But keep in mind, one of the problems with the Horse Archers is that you need to keep them as a large group, because in smaller groups, they're not as effective as, let's say, Knights are. And oh, but that's ugly from Demu. Oh boy, a lot of these Horse Archers are so badly beaten up.
Yeah, I mean, Horse Archers are something that I say it time and time again. They're such a high scaling but low floor unit. And the reason why is because if you're not babysitting them, if you're not making sure that you're continuing to kite with all of these Horse Archer groups, you're going to get picked off by a lot of them. And you see, just because they're low health, they're having that problem. Demu, try to get a second town center over here all the way in the back. Let's see. Oh, a couple more torches. Let's see if he can do it.
Puppy should have torched one more time. If he releases one more volley, I think Demu canceled it, lost all the stone, or most of it. Oh, that's bad. That's as bad as it gets. If Puppy torches that down, it's all the stone. Okay, at least he's got this stone in there for an ENTC, but still, that's definitely not optimal for Demu, and those kinds of losses he simply cannot really afford. Now Wham is going into Castle Age. Everybody is going to be in the castle. Knight numbers are massive, though, for Puppy Paw. He's got 30 Royal Knights now with Royal Bloodlines.
Yeah, and Lidakor, look at his macro. You know, he's macroed perfectly. He's got all of these. Oh my God, these Horse Archers are going down. I feel like my heart is getting shattered into a million pieces. They keep dying, Lidakor. They keep dying. And you're right. With these Horse Archers, you got to have a bunch of them. But if you keep clipping them off, every 8 to 10 of them, they get clipped off. All of a sudden, you don't have that critical mass. And that critical mass needs to be even more because of Royal Bloodlines existing. Getting that plus 80 health is so important for a thing like Horse Archers because you need so many. Whereas Demu now, with those Horse Archers, he saw the ineffectiveness that they have. He's like, forget it, I'm just going crossbows.
The problem that he's facing is that for the last few minutes, it was basically Puppy alone. Now Wham is back. He's been on 2 TCs. He's up to 6 eco. And now he's getting back with Castle Age Spearman and Jugenu. And we talked about this. Fighting straight on against Jugenu with Horse Archers is just not a good thing to do. When these Jugenu arrive, it's a totally different story. Wham is actually pretty heavy on stone, so I wonder...
No.
Oh, that's gotta be the game. Kiljardi is down to 34 vills. They actually combine less villagers than Puppy Paw alone.
And Kiljardi's trying to he spent all this time rebooming. You know, he spent all that time rebooming, and then all of those villagers end up going down. He's sitting on 32. Right now, more are going to go down. Zugnu are going to rip those villagers apart, let me tell you. Spearman trying to get in on the Horse Archers. Horse Archers trying to kite over. Camel Lancers, there's only 5 total for Kiljardi because he was so focused on booming. Now, the Canadian brothers, they see that starting town center that's completed again. They might be trying to take that one down. Royal Knights getting the charge in on those Camel Lancers. I mean, I get that they have that unease, but it's not enough. It's not enough damage. Zugnu targeting the Horse Archers as well. Military count 65 to 20, continuing to go down faster for the side of RCN, and now they don't have that tech advantage anymore. Everybody is Castle Age. Everyone's on an equal playing field. You're not going to be able to clean up that mass, and all of a sudden, the Canadian brothers, plus Blade, taking that game number 1.
Wow. It really... I know it went into Castle Age, but at the end of the day, this game really came down to that Feudal Age push. Killjoy and Demu both went to Castle Age, but they just had absolutely no defenses against that Jugenu push. And I credit them for trying to get a recovery going, but you just look at that villager graph and you really become sad. You can clearly see where this game started slipping, especially on Killjoy's end. But even for Demu, he actually lost a lot of villagers. We haven't really been focusing on that because of all the things that were happening. But once you got to that Castle Age part with those French knights, Puppy Paw started raiding as well, got a lot of villager kills. The good news for Demu and Killjoy, though, is that I feel like the style they wanted to play could work a lot better on other maps. More, I guess, on the slower paced maps, the players are a little bit further away from each other. I think this kind of a composition, this fast castle Aebith, Camel Lancer, and Horse Archer, is just not a combination that works well on a map where players are so close.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that one too. It was kind of weird for Killjardy and Demu to go for this. And, you know, I keep alluding back to the last series because of the juxtaposition between the victors, right? I mean, for all three of them, Louis and CSO in the last series didn't get greedy. They didn't do the fast castle. They understand that late game was important, but if they didn't make that hold against that very first, that initial push, they weren't getting to any late game. And I think Killjardy and Demu might want to take a page out of their book. If you go for this greed, aggression will kill you. You know, there was a time in the middle of Castle Age when Killjardy was Castle Age, Demu was kind of getting there. The military value and the military count for Wham and Puppy Paw was insane. You see it right here. It's 35-8, right? Oh my God, these replays are really helping me out here. I love it. For these Zug New, taking down some of these villagers, that obviously helps. They're taking down stables, so Killjardy can't get the Camel Lancers that he needs. Like, we talk about what aggression does for you. This is what aggression did. It stopped Killjardy essentially from playing the game he wanted to play. So overall, this is a great aggression.
Yeah, and really, this cleanup is the only thing that made this game anywhere close to being plausible for Demu and Killjardy. They managed to clean this whole force up, and for a moment there was a glimpse of hope, but the damage that was done was just too big. There are maps where you can reboom, but this is just not one of them. And we talked about this at the beginning of the game. Gorge either goes into an hour-long game or it's a 10-minute game. And we've actually seen the latter here. A lot of aggression, players are close to one another, and the damage that was done to Killjoy was just way too massive to overcome. It's going to be our Canada up 1-0 on the board, throw a couple of the North, and now down one game here. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how Demo and Killjoy can play this game once they get a little bit deeper into the game. I feel like for the overwhelming majority of this game, they have been playing from a deficit, and that kind of started with all this feudal age aggression that did so much damage on Killjoy.
Well, it's all about going back to the purposes, the effectiveness of what a fast castle does, right? A lot of the time, when you're going for that fast castle, you're giving up a little bit of that map control, a little bit of the proactivity, because you're going to get it back later with a big power spike. Because of that feudal aggression from Wham and Puppy Paw and their ability to do it, there was no getting it back. They had no potential to get it back. So they lost it without the ability to regain it. That's just a dead game for you. And coming back into game two, let's see. I mean, RCN, you can see their picks on the right side of your screen. Delhi and English. There's a potential to have some feudal age shenanigans. Delhi, obviously, with some of the best horsemen with Ghazi Raiders. English having longbowmen. Team Canada on the other side, going for these quote unquote boomy, quote unquote greedy civs with Iobids and Malians.
Now, it's interesting that you go for a boomy civilization setup on a map like Baldland. Because when you look at that little image we have in here from the map, you would think, okay, you don't have a lot of wood to start with, you cannot really go greedy. But the theme that I've been seeing on a Baldland is that you have players, and I will just continue once we get into the game here, but players will be close, so you can help defend each other. Difference is that your opponents are much further away from you. So it's not the exact same setup that we had in the previous game. We're heading into game number 2 here. It is on a bold land, Demu and Kiljardi, down 1 with the English and the Delhi. And on the other side, Wham and Puppypaw spotting close to each other as you should on bold land. They do have 2 Boomy Sifs here, Malians and the Ayubids. And listen, this is the thing I wanted to kind of allude to. Spawning close to your teammate, very similar to game number 1 on Gorge. But you're much further away from the opponents, so this kind of an early aggression takes a lot more time to actually come together for the opponent, which means that Wham and Puppypaw can play a little bit greedier than Demu and Kiljardi could in the previous game.
That's Lidicor. That's a super good point. You can see where these spawns are. I mean, I get that you want to do this fast castle, this kind of greed, and you want to scout your opponent to see if you can. But a lot of it too is playing the map you're given. And you're exactly right. Having this distance means it might be a little bit easier. Wham as the Malian's going to be able to get that pit mine with 6 houses as usual. I'm very curious to see what Puppypaw ends up doing as the Ayubids, just like we talked about. Ayubids can do a multitude of different things. They can go for some feudal. They can to protect their teammate. They can go for some castle as well. So we'll see what they end up choosing. Demu playing as the Delhi Sultanate. Might he end up choosing some feudal age stuff? You have some Boomy Civs on the other side. I know we talked about how far away you spawn from one another, but Demu and the crux of Delhi's feudal age power comes with their fastest unit, the Ghazi Raider. So are they going to be able to maintain aggression with the mobility that they have?
That's going to be the big question mark here. I think the main concern you have with the English, when you spawn so far away from your opponent and want to potentially go for a feudal age push, is the interception of your reinforcements. That's applicable for all archer civilizations, but applies even more so for the English, simply because of how slow their longbows are. So that's one of the things that you're going to have to be cautious about, but for now, it's going to be an Abbey of Kings opening here for Kiljardi. So if you're Kiljardi and Demu, I don't think you want to go very heavy on feudal age aggression. By the time you arrive, your opponents will be well defended. Javelins could be out just to slow down this aggression. Your Ayubid opponent could already be halfway up to Castle Age. So I feel like maybe you're going to do something different here if you're Kiljardi and Demu and play a little slower. I think on this map, the timing that you gotta nail is when your opponent runs out of the safe wood nearby and they have to start migrating out towards those bigger trees.
Yeah, because that's the nature of the map Baldland, right? Lidicor, you're absolutely right. Let's take a look at some of those wood lines that are there. I mean, for both Wham and Puppypaw, they do have some in the back on that eastern side of the map, so maybe they might get away with something like that, but it's just how many trees. I mean, we call them wood lines. I kind of want to call them bushels because that's the idea of Baldland, is to get over there. You can see how many trees that are there on each side. I mean, it looks like maybe 12, maybe to 15. And you look at this gargantuan forest. There could be trees, there could be ents in there for how big of a forest is. I'm not really sure. So those end up being the main points, right, in the middle of the map. So hopefully there's a period of time for Wham and Puppypaw's sake. There's a period of time where that wood line gives them enough to get there, and then they can go for heavy like food and gold units or something like that. The Malians, they do love their gold. With the Mansa Quarry coming up and with that pit mine as well, they're going to be able to get there. With Kiljardi getting that Abbey of Kings, going to be able to get a king, most notably what I like to call the most annoying unit this game has to offer. Delhi, on the other side, going with Dome of the Faith, trying to get their scholars up, trying to make sure that they study enough to get all of those technologies that they need. And there's a possibility for Demu to go pro scouts with Dome of the Faith. How have you liked this new Lidicor, this new Delhi build that we've seen in Feudal and Castle Age, and going into those non-stoppable dumbos?
I have mixed feelings about this. I don't think it's a good choice on this map in particular. The map is just way too open, and it takes so much time to get to your opponent, right? I feel like if we go for some more condensed maps, they actually become extremely viable. I wonder if that's going to be the unit of choice here for Demu. I don't think it will be. I don't think it should be. But I definitely can see Delhi being utilized in that way, like that being elephants being your primary force to play around, but not on this map.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times, a lot of people worry about the elephants, and they're like, well, I don't really know what to do about them. I don't know what unit to make. I don't know whatever. But Baldlands is such an open map. I'm kind of just piggybacking on your point. Baldlands is such an open map where you could try to just go around them, right? And you don't need to really take them head on. Maybe you could raid some villagers or the like. Wham, you're gonna be able to get a couple Donzos in Feudal Age. Super nice, you know, especially against the King of Kiljardi. They can go ahead and throw their spear when they want to. They have a certain cooldown for the ability to do that. But when they do, it just makes sure that King stays at bay. It makes Puppy Paw get an outpost to make sure his gold is preserved. And it looks like Wham, he's going to be brunting the force of this in Feudal Age. He's got some Donzos, he's got some Javelin throwers, while Puppy Paw's hanging out trying to get the Castle Age. And he already, from the looks of it, he already hit that button. Might that have been the culture wing, Lidakor? Yes, it is.
Indeed it is. Now, looks like Kiljardi is going for longbows over here, so we are going to have some level of aggression coming in. I don't know how heavily he's going to commit. He has that king out there heavily damaged, but they see a forward wood line here. Ghazi Raiders are approaching. Longbows could set up as well, and I wouldn't be against, like, I don't think going full all in here is a good way to play this. But I could see Demu and Kiljardi just kind of having some level of aggression put up there and just try to cause some level of disruption to the opponent's game plan. Slow things down a little by harassing those lumberjacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw that they were the victims of that aggression. So they're trying to take the aggression on. Ghazi Raiders do take down, it looks like, 2 villagers on their western wood bushel that's over there. Demu Kiljardi with really good choreography, right? He has the longbowman with the Ghazi Raiders. They're trying to find some things to do. They're getting map control, taking a couple sacred sites, as the Delhi loves to do as well. Some longbowmen will be able to keep those Donzos at bay. Javelin throwers from Wham, just because of their high DPS, how much base damage each javelin is, you could do some damage. Some of those Ghazi Raiders, you can see one of them at half health. Puppy Paw now going into Castle Age, and it's almost like Lidakor, it's almost like passing a baton. Wham is like, okay, I made some Donzos, I made some Javelin throwers to make sure you didn't get run over. Now, I'm giving the baton to you, my friend. Make some units and bail me out.
Indeed, Camel Lancers will be on the way. So far, Puppy Paw has been preserved in a nice and safe condition. Again, the problem I'm running into with this kind of an opening for Demu and Kiljardi is the level of damage that they've been able to inflict. It's kind of negligible, I would say. Some idle time, a couple of houses going down, but at the end of the day, they haven't done anything crazy powerful yet. And they don't really have good answers to Camel Lancers, especially if Javelin throwers are also accompanying them. Ghazi Raiders do get bonus damage against heavy units, but at the same time, Ghazi Raiders are also cavalry, so they will get debuffed by the camels, and they will also get that bonus damage against them from the camels.
You know, I'm really glad you brought that up, Lidakor, because everybody talks about the Ghazis, and they're like, yeah, they do good against heavy units. They do good against heavy units. It's only +2. Okay, let's not go crazy. You know, if you take a look at some of those Camel Lancers, yes, the unease is going to be there, obviously, but the Camel Lancer has 210 health. Do you think they care about +2? Probably not.
I think it's not even about the, you know, how much. It's the fact you are fighting a horse unit against a camel unit. And that, by definition, is always something that favors the camel unit. You also have these javelin throwers down here doing a really good job of trying to snipe off the backline. And Wham and Puppy Paw doing a great job just building up those Camel Lancers over time. The King gets trapped here for a brief moment. The King might just go down here. Indeed, it does.
And, you know, we talk about Jeanne d'Arc being an expensive unit to bring back. The King is also expensive. 200 total resources to get another King out, and you need a little bit of time for them to do it. Now Puppy Paw going to be able to get some Camel Lancers out there, maybe 1 or 2, start to decap some of these sacred sites, which you love to do. It looks like Demu and Kiljardi, in terms of their aggressiveness, they're giving up, and they're backing up. And this is so different from game number 1. Wham and Puppy Paw, when they were being aggressive, the Iabid player was dead in the water. Now, Puppy Paw essentially wasn't touched. He has the most villagers out of all 4 of these players, and will continue to pump out these Camel Lancers. I think Demu and Kiljardi might be in for a rough time.
I gotta agree with you. I think Demu and Kiljardi have 2 options. They try to maintain this level of aggression and lose the game. They don't have the composition to break into the enemy base. Or they try to do something else, in which case they will have a tough game ahead of them. Their composition is still very underwhelming. Like, Javelins and Camels, is the perfect answer to Gauzy Raiders and Longbows. But at the same time, at least they give themselves some level of hope. Maybe, you know, at some point you might have a slip up from Wham and Puppy Paw. Someone might just forget about a couple of villagers. You get a good raid going. I feel like Demon Killjoy did the right thing, not overcommitting to that aggression, because that aggression was definitely not going to win them the game. At least they kind of keep their hopes alive in this game against a very tough Civilization matchup now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. They could have tried to beat their head against the wall, but they chose not to, and they're going to be able to live another day. Demu going to be continuing to do his best in learning. As a Kiljardi's villager goes down on the south side, Demu going to be going up with the House of Learning, using professional scouts to get as much safe food as you can. And honestly, pro scouts with the deli, it just mixes so well because they have to go out to get those food resources. Why not just bring the food resources right in? But now that Castle Age did hit, again, for deli, it takes a little bit of time. You need those technologies to get researched. You need to get some of those Castle Age units from efficient production. So Puppy Paw's trying to take it to him with those Camel Lancers, and it looks like some of those deer packs have to get vacated. Puppy Paw looking for some areas over here on the western side, the northern side, trying not to extend too much. Those Gauzy Raiders, they're doing what they can to try to get there, just to feign some kind of defense. But I don't think that's a fight that he particularly wants to take. He's going to need more regular Knights and Lancers, and that seems to be what he's going for, even though they get the unease, Lidakor. What do you think about that choice?
I feel like he doesn't have a choice right now. He is set up for cavalry production. He doesn't even have a Rex, probably. So at this point, I think Demu and Killjardy are just trying to do their best to prevent a complete dive from Wham and Puppy. Now, Wham and Puppy leverage this opportunity very well. They're getting some dervishes out. They're trying to get some relics in. In the meantime, Demu is doing a decent job ferrying carcasses with the deli. I think if you're Demu, the only condition under which I can see this fight happening is if you have a bunch of battlefield healing from the Scholars. Demu does have 12 Scholars. He's getting the techs quickly. If he can micro this well and pull back the injured units, that's the way he could take this. And indeed, he has a nice little overwhelm. That +2 from the Gauzy Raider starts becoming relevant when you overwhelm your opponent like this. Sure, you have the unease, but it's a big difference maker compared to what you would get from Horsemen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And especially for how many there are, right? For all these Gauzy Raiders that are there. He is getting the veteran technology. It's going to take about a minute for him to do it. Demu trying to get some relics. Camel Lancer. Ah! Not quite. It will stay.
Calculated.
Big Camel Lancer. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that Scholar will end up going down. Gauzy Raiders continuing to chase those Puppy Paw Camel Lancers. And now you're taking a look at the ecos here that are in the back as Cal kind of looked at. Camel Lancer reinforcements are going to be here. When do you start going into maybe a second town center? But hold that thought. Some Camel Lancers are going to take this battle against a lot of these Gauzies that are uneasy, a lot of these Lancers from Delhi that are rather uneasy. Let's see if they can take this fight. It looks really good for Puppy Paw. Demu might have bit off a little more than he could chew in that one, Lidakor.
I don't know what the mindset was behind that fight. Well, maybe Demu just wanted to trade. Maybe Demu feels like he cannot let his opponent build up a big ball of Camel Lancers. If he does, it might just be game over. But at the same time, fighting Horsemen into Lancers just feels so off. At the very least, he's now transitioning to Elephants. We're getting to that stage where you start sectioning off the map with walls. Elephants will become your go-to unit. At the same time, Killjardy is still in Feudal Age. Wham is about to get up to Castle, and we haven't really seen much of Wham so far. This has been just Puppy Paw running circles around the enemy. Once Wham gets the Cow Boom online with the Grand Fulani Corral, once Wham starts to pump out more troops, this is going to be a tough position to be in. Killjardy is still in Feudal.
Well, you know what happened, Lidakor, is the baton got passed again. Ayubids with these Camel Lancers were creating a lot of raids, a lot of idle time, taking good fights against those Knights. We have our first Dumbo sighting, that tank with 850 health, a second Dumbo just to have a friend for the first one will be making its way out there. But now, for the Malians, their late game economy is now starting to come online. They have pit mines, they have the corral. All of a sudden, you're going to see a military count from Wham that is out of this world. That's going to be difficult for Demu and Killjardy to deal with. And Demu's still trying to chase those Puppy Paw Camel Lancers around, trying to make sure both of the economies of both of these players end up being safe. But I think it's the time, Lidakor. I think this is the time for Puppy Paw and Wham to get something together now that those Castle Age upgrades are coming in for Wham.
This would be a great timing here for the Canadians to attack. Kiljardi's about to age. He's going up into King's Palace. I love that a lot. If you're setting up for late game, it's good to have that extra eco boost in there. It's going to be difficult for Wham and Puppy to dive because they still don't have like a lot of range units from Wham and they're still inside his base. And you still have 25 spears out here for Kiljardi, so you don't want to dive deep into the enemy base. Look at this. Bit of a miscommunication between the Canadians, each of them building a layer of wall themselves. Knights slip past, however, and this is how Demu wants to play this. You want to run around and force the Camel Lancers to chase. You want to buy time for Kiljardi to get his upgrades. It's still going to be a difficult setup for them to play in. But if you get your walls up, if you section off the map, you get Kiljardi and Castle, you're getting into those elephants. Now, on the other side, we're getting more and more archers from Wham, and poison arrow archers are no joke either. But I like this for Demu, even if he loses the knights, he just needs to buy time until his teammate gets the Castle Age. Keeping all these Camel Lancers in the enemy base, I think, is good value.
Yeah, I mean, Kiljardi really has to supplement Demu. You're absolutely right. And obviously in a 2v2, you're going to need that. But also, just because of what Kiljardi is able to make as the English, right? As Demu's still trying to get a little bit of a raid, but ends up getting a little sidetracked. Some Donzo's Camel Lance are going to end up taking care of it. For Kiljardi, for his army composition, it's going to be really important to support the Dumbos that are out. He's got 6 elephants out right now and continuing to make more, I would imagine. He needs longbowmen to make sure spearmen are out of the way and crossbowmen are out of the way, and then these war elephants can just run a train.
Now, poison arrow archers are one of the few units that actually do exceptionally well against elephants. So, like, this combination, this death ball from Wham and Puppy, even though the military counts are dead even, I feel like the composition is still in the favor of Wham and Puppy. Especially when you consider that Demu's got 18 scholars out there that won't really contribute much into the fighting, besides actual combat healing. I feel like the firepower is so massive here for Wham and Puppy Paw, though, that they might just, like, one-shot these units way too quick. Here's the dive.
And I think that lack of mobility for the elephants, they're still trailing away on that north side. Puppy Paw tried to get a little bit of a dive with those Camel Lancers, ended up not becoming quite there. Javelin throwers are going to be able to take some hits on those elephants, but boy, full steam ahead. Those elephants are coming in. They are sprinting their way over there, trying to get a charge on some of them for those Camel Lancers from Puppy Paw, but ending up backing up. Is this the unstoppable force of the Delhi that everyone on Reddit is complaining about? Is this going to be the moment where the Delhi elephants just reign supreme and take over the Bald Land? Because this is a big force over here in Lidakor, about 120 military total. I know that some of them are scholars, but if you're just getting peppered with things like poison arrows, with things like a little bit of crossbowmen, you might be able to out-heal it, and Demu's micro is fantastic. Those war elephants, a tower elephant coming out as well. We're going to see both different kinds, and it looks like the army from Puppy Paw and Wham, a little bit split up. Demu and Kiljardi also a little bit split up. Look at those elephants chasing all the way over there. You're going to see that mobility just be such a big problem for the elephants, especially in a 2v2.
Puppy is doing the very thing that he's supposed to do, and now the lack of walls to the north from Demu is haunting them so bad. Elephants are great when the map is sectioned off, and this map is difficult to section off. These Lancers are just completely forcing all these elephants to chase, and if the elephants aren't chasing, Demu in the middle has to cancel a keep being dropped here by Wham. But if the elephants are chasing, that means that the English player is forced to fight javelin throwers. It's just not a good setup for them. And you can actually see these individual fights are now favoring Wham and Puppy Paw. The Dunsos are just focusing down the elephants. It's difficult to get away from this. I don't know where the English army went. I think they're just busy chasing down all those Camel Lancers.
Yeah, I think they might be as well. I'm not really sure where they are on the map. Those villagers, obviously, that keep gets canceled. They are trying to chase those Camel Lancers over there on the north side at Lidakor. That's an excellent call. Now that Kiljardi is going to be able to help out Demu, maybe they end up taking that initiative back a little bit. Puppy Paw's like, hey, I know that these elephants, they're OP, they're broken, they're blah, blah, blah. I'm just not going to fight them. I'm just going to go around. And that's exactly what they do. These elephants, they're trying to get some sort of damage, Lidakor, but it just feels like for how expensive they are, they're not doing the amount of damage they necessarily want. Look at those poison arrows just end up picking one off. They have to run all the way back. They want to take a fight. They want to initiate something, but it looks to be rather difficult. There's a 2v1 situation here with Killjardy and Demu coming together against the Malian Empire with a military count that Wham has. It was 90. It's starting to dwindle just a little bit. Scholars getting their prayer books out, doing the best they can to heal these elephants, but you're going to see some of them going down rather
It's
quickly.
not going up.
I don't think so
It's
either.
not going up.
Oh my
Oh
god.
boy. I think that this must be it. If this keep is denied, it is just way too much. Camel Lancers are still raiding the enemy base here. Mangonel was a keep up on the top of the hill, and Demu's castle is getting denied. Villagers are getting caught in the crossfire. There goes the elephant. I don't know. I feel like this might be it, and part of this comes down to these Camel Lancers raiding. They've just been such a distraction, and I feel like Wham and Puppy did such a good job just exploiting that lack of mobility from Demu and Killjardy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why you got a group of Camel Lancers streaming all over the map. Now they're going to come in on the south side, where most of the elephants now, there's only one war elephant and one tower elephant. These scholars are starting to get picked off with some of those poison arrows as well. They're going to be becoming largely ineffective just because there's only 4 or 5 of them. They don't have the healing power that the Delhi scholars used to have back in Season 3. So it's going to be difficult. Mangonel getting those shots off against the large foot soldier army, a lot of that ranged army from the English, but it's not going to be enough. You're going to see that Mangonel drop quickly because of those longbowmen. The siege, they're trying to rely on it. They're trying to rely on the keep as well, but I think a lot of damage has been done for the way of Demu just because of how expensive those elephants are, Lidicor.
And they are down by 20 villagers now. This is do or die for Demu and Killjardy, and I don't think they have the critical mass to push against this fortification. They're going to get this castle up, which is nice and neat, but they still have 20 Camel Lancers to deal with. They're swinging north to that gold mine. That might be the final nail in the coffin for Demu. There's also a batch of Gulam now coming in here. Manjanique setting up on top of the hill. I don't know how long that castle stays up, but at this point, it's a race to just who dies first, the villagers up here or the castle down there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And those wood villagers are or those gold villagers are so important, right? You want to get as many elephants as you can. Those tower elephants that he's going into take 600 gold, right? They're pretty expensive. You're going to need a lot of gold in order to pull that off. Keeps continuing to take down, getting hit by those firing rocks of the Manjanique. Demu has to vacate that gold mine completely. And Puppy Paw's still trying to get there. He's still trying to take down the walls. He might be able to get there to lose a lot of villagers to the point where when you're down by 20, those villagers going down is a big deal, and I was kind of waiting for this. Lidicor, Puppy Paw, and Wham now with a siege transition, gonna go with some trebuchets, and that seems to be the unit to take down keeps nowadays.
That seems to be the case indeed. The village fortress hasn't been clicked, by the way, by Demu. This keep goes up, but I don't know how long this is going to survive in enemy territory. Village fortresses will be researched on this one to the north. Demu and Killjardy still down by 80 eco. The bigger problem is this position that they are in right now. They don't really have a lot of map control. Demu's rendered down to just 4 tower elephants. Only a handful of scholars left from what he had initially. It's just 11 now on the field. You still have the English though. Demu still has a decent resource bang, but look at Puppy Paw. He never wants his opponent back on that gold mine.
Oh, no. I mean, with those outposts going up, they'll make sure that they're not going to be there, and Camel Lancers will be skulking around as well. Puppy Paw and Wham continuing to push this initiative. And this is the thing. When you have Trebs with such a high range, you're going to be able to take down a lot of these buildings. You're going to be able to do a good job. Manjaniques trying to get in on those tower elephants, but they're just too tanky. They have all this ranged armor too, so you're really going to need something to take them out. Killjardy running up the hill with all of his men-at-arms, trying to take down this keep, trying to take down this siege, and they might end up being pretty effective. Some trebuchets going down. Mangonel's trebuchets getting popped like water balloons, and they really want this fight. A lot of Mangonels coming in on the back end for Wham, looking to try to take down the range mass from Killjardy, and it's all about staying alive. Puppy Paw with these Gulams trying to make a good front line against the English men-at-arms. This is a tough one to call, but I think because of all the siege that's out here, that ranged mass and that keep, they can't go any farther. They got to back up.
It's poison arrows all day, all night. English Men-at-Arms is a great choice here, by the way, against such a ranged mass. It's a really tanky frontline unit. The problem is that poison arrow archers do reasonably well against them. And on the other side, you only have longbows, and those will not kill the Ghulams fast enough. We also haven't seen the full army here from Puppy Paw. All of his Camel Lancers are still to the north, although they're very badly damaged. If you're Puppy, you want to heal them. If you take a fight with that force right now, they're going to get mauled, and things could turn around very, very quickly. Remember, you're still looking at an English farming eco. Demon and Kiljardi are down by 20 villagers, but there is also a big boost in terms of technology for Demu. 56 farms out there for Kiljardi.
Yeah, and this is one of the scary things as English is you're going to be able to do that, right? Continuing to take this 1v1 essentially with Puppy Paw and Wham, but Puppy Paw adding some Manganiques of his own over on that northern side, going to have to back up. But this is the frustrating thing when you're playing against English, right? You get the King's Palace, which is your free second town center. Then all of a sudden, with all of the farms, and because they're 37 wood each, you're able to get all of these and just steamroll and continue to make units over and over again, whether they're effective or not, who really cares? But Wham on the other side can kind of do the same thing with the cow boom, with the gold. So whose economy is going to reign supreme? Demu with those village fortresses, Littlecourt, he's got to get that as soon as possible because he's looking like the weakest link out of the four here.
You're saying that, but at the same time, I think the weakest link is simply gold access. Kiljardi has one small gold mine that he can work with, and it actually has 30 villagers on it. I think Kiljardi wants to go to Imp, but he simply doesn't have the gold for it. They're now trying to expand towards the south to secure some more gold. But the biggest concern right now for Kiljardi and Demu is the lack of gold access, especially when you compare that to Wham and Puppy. Wham and Puppy have the major gold mines in the middle, and they also have that passive gold income coming in from the pit mines.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
They might be trading too. If you look to the south, those might be markets. Indeed, they are.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they walled up very well, right, Littlecourt? So they're going to be able to make that trade, and they've been continuing to not only hold, but push an initiative a little bit forward, as Wham is doing with this little Archer Vanguard force to try to take down some villagers, and it looks like they might be able to do that, where Kiljardi, oh, Musafati, excuse me, I said Archers, will be able to take some hits on those villagers and bring them down. While on the flip side, they're able to trade all the way
north.
back.
Oh, those are elephants. For a moment, I thought they are vills. Remember the Camel Lancers, if there's one mistake that Puppy is making, it's those Camel Lancers still being so heavily damaged. They've been trying to raid, but they've never been healed up, and they are basically 1 HP each.
Yeah, you talked about healing them up even a couple minutes ago. Still hasn't gotten around to doing that. Wham going with the 4 of the Huntress, getting his way into Imperial Age. Puppy Paw already there. English, Kiljardi going with the Berkshire Palace to try to protect some of the eco that he has. So we are going to see some Imperial. It looks like with that Berkshire, as it will go up, we're going to see its range and how it can hit units from a different dimension. Anywhere that is close, they're going to be able to try to take down and pepper just a little bit. Remember those English keeps, adding network of castles, network of citadels if they happen to research it, that could help them out even in the siege department as well. Look at that Berkshire. I don't even see it. I can see its arrows though.
I love this, and now Demu is trying to go Imperial as well. Kiljardi just sent a bunch of food to Demu to get him to Imperial. And remember, Delhi, once they get to Imperial with that many scholars, Demu can get upgrades quickly. I still think that Demu and Kiljardi need to address the problem of having a wide open north. But if this game gets kind of focused in this middle area into this slugfest, you cannot ask for anything better than elephants and English. That's the combination that's just impossible to stop in a direct battle. So if you're Wham and Puppy, you gotta stretch the field. You gotta expose that northern side of Demu. And I also love how they're getting these walls up to prevent these break-ins. Ghazi Raiders shouldn't really be able to do much here, although, as I'm saying that, you look at Wham's comp, it's a slow-moving composition. And Puppy Paw is just full-on Ghulams. There isn't very many camels out here to deal with this. Yeah, just a handful of camels heavily beaten up.
Yeah, still haven't been healed with the core, like you said. Wham trying to get those stone walls over there on that side will end up getting deterred by some of those Ghazis. Now English has trebs of their own. They're going to be able to tread down some of these keeps. Berkshire firing into the nether regions, essentially trying to get hit. And as they come closer, these Ghulams are continuing to be the target of fire. Puppy Paw and Wham, with how many mangonels they have, it's a total of 12. And there's a really interesting Siege Workshop technology that I'm interested if they got. If they got adjustable crossbars, these mangonels are going to be super tough to take care of.
That's a lot of firepower on the Berkshire here, and if you have that English ball, you need to be extra careful. If you lose the Berkshire here, your position is just going to be so bad. Villagers are being pulled to repair. But I think Killjardy and Demu have to commit.
And that's exactly what they're going to do. Dumbo's trying to make that front line. Men-at-Arms, Spearmen trying to make that front line as well. These Ghulams are so tanky up here for Puppy Paw. I'm not seeing any Scholars in the region. I don't know if these elephants are getting healed. Demu got Imperial Age during this fight, right? So all of those late game Dumbo technologies that we talk about being so powerful, they're not there. The siege superiority for Puppy Paw and Wham, however, is there. The Ghulams maintaining that front line through all the crossbowmen of Killjardy. These mangonels make quick work, even though Killjardy's trying to do the splits as best as he can. This Berkshire is not long for this world. You got trebuchets hitting into the back. This looks like a good fight for Puppy Paw and Wham, Littlecore.
It is. It might just be the game here. The Berkshire is going to fall. Demu and Killjardy just have no standing army left. And really, the lack of armor-piercing power haunted Demu and Killjardy in that battle a lot. The Ghulams just had nothing that could kill them quickly. Longbows took way too much time, and in the end, Demu and Killjardy do get cleaned up in this fight and probably in this game. I gotta say, I think one of the issues we're looking at here for Demu and Killjardy is that they have the right Civ combinations, but for the wrong maps. A previous game, Camel Lancers and Horse Archers, they are a good combination, but not for Gorge. And same thing here. If they have English and Delhi on Cliffside, I will say, what a wonderful combination, really good for the map. But it's just not a combination that works well on this map, which is just so Castle Age heavy. In this map, you gotta be able to move out on the field in Castle Age, and that's something that Wham and Puppy Paw did so much better, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely, because their power spikes of their civilizations really happen in Castle, right? With Wham getting that Grand Filani Corral, with Puppy Paw getting to Castle Age as quickly as possible. He was able to get map control and maintain it throughout the duration of this game. Palace of the Sultan, you wanted to see some fancy Dumbos with a gun strapped onto them. You're not going to see in this game, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be going down. Madrasas are going to end up going down. Books will be burnt from the Delhi, the Sultanate. There's one Dumbo with the gun on it, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough military count. Trying to go up for Demu and Killjardy about 82, but I think, Littlecore, you're reaching this Malian Empire era where look at how much they have stockpiled. They can go to Imperial again if they want to.
It's just too much to deal with. The efficiency of these fights have been way better on the side of Wham and Puppy, but now they have this death ball of siege rolling in. 11 mangonels. And elephants are slow, remember that. Like, it's not like they can dodge these volleys very well. Ghulam are chasing them, and they actually have to flee from all these mangonels out here. I don't think it's a matter of who, it's a matter of when at this point. Wham and Puppy Paw showing why they're one of the favorites to win this whole event here. They will be up 2-0 here in a matter of moments.
Yeah, I mean, Demu and Killjardy are trying to mass up. Again, you say in a matter of moments. I think that moment's going to be pretty soon because look at that economic count, right? It's 213 to 95. You know, those Dumbos are not cheap units. You need a good, strong economy to make sure you continue to produce them. Demu has no stockpile. We've reached this point of the game where you're 30-some minutes in, a float becomes a stockpile. All right, Puppy Paw and Wham have those things, and they're continuing to raid in all of these areas. I really like what Wham is doing, just using some Musafati forces to try to take down some villagers and the like. Keep is going to go down. It looks like they're going to be denied on wood. They're going to be denied on gold. Besides English enclosures, they're denied out of this game.
And there it is. Canada moving on to 2-0. They remain undefeated in the tournament. They had 2 consecutive 3-0s in the group stage, one Group B. Now they head into the quarterfinals here, leading 2-0 as well. And again, I think when you look at this civilization combination for Demu and Killjardy, it's a good combo, just not for this map. I think all the problems that they had started from the fact that these Camel Lancers in mid-Castle Age were detached by Puppy Paw. and they were such a good raiding force. You could actually see it on the eco graph. At that 21, 22-minute mark where Demu starts losing eco, that's where those Camel Lancers came online. And from there on out, again, Puppypaw and Wham are playing from a position of advantage. Demu and Kiljardi did a good job dragging this game out, trying to get it back late game, but the deficit to overcome was just way too big.
Yeah, and let's not gloss over the fuel aggression that Kiljardi and Demu tried to do, right? I mean, Demu got a couple sacred sites, obviously, as Delhi. They had a little bit of a longbow mass with the king, and then Demu tried to get some Ghazi Raiders in there, but you weren't able to stop the game plan, right? You weren't able to stop the game plan of Puppy Paw and Wham. So those Camel Lancers being so important, getting those raids, running around the base, the reason why they exist is because the feudal aggression didn't really work. And as far as losing villagers, Puppy Paw and Wham, I'm trying to recall. I don't think they lost any, and if they did, they lost a few.
And with that, again, Canada moves up 2-0. They are one game away from getting into the semifinals tomorrow and facing off against another very tough team, the Elephant. And it looks like game number 3 is going to be on Himeyama. I feel like Timu and Kiljardi have the pieces to turn this around, though. It's just that they really need this setup where they can dictate the tempo of the game, which has not been the case in the first 2 games.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely Lidicor with your what you said about the Civ suggestions or the Civ picks based on the maps. I really think you hit the nail on the head because it's for the last 2 games for RCN. It was just essentially right track, wrong train, right? I mean, if you exactly what you said previously, if you flip the script on these Civ picks, we might be looking at a different score. It might be tied. It might even be 2-0 for RCN. As you see a little bit of replay again, Puppy Paws, Camel Lancers, just keeping Demu occupied with a lot of these Ghazi Raiders, with a lot of the Lancers that are over there. They might have been able to do some raiding against the Malians or against the Ayabids, but they were just chasing these Camel Lancers the whole time.
I think this is something I always highlight in terms of the Camel Lancers. There are very few units which pack a good base attack, decent amount of armor, good mobility, and also anti-cavalry potential. So think about it this way. How will you chase down the Camel Lancers inside your eco? If these were normal Lancers, you have options. You can chase them down with Lancers as well, right?
Mhm.
But there are very few units that can actually pick up base with the Camel Lancers and also fight them head on. So that was one of the issues for Demu here to deal with. He never had a unit that can actually deal with these Camel Lancer raids. And Puppypaw, he just kept running around. And that's part of the reason why this whole split in the army happened here in this scene. You do have that detached from Kiljardi's forces as they kind of scramble to try and deal with the Camel Lancers. And by the time they dealt with most of them, the trenches were dug. Puppypaw and Wham had this hill with a major gold mine, so Demu and Kiljardi had to scramble for that gold control.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It was almost just playing one step behind most of the game, right? It's Puppy Paw and Wham. It just feels like in this series so far, game 3 could be a different story, but they're playing chess while RCN is playing checkers. Let's see if game 3 has a different story for this one. I think we're not going to waste any time. We're diving right in, aren't we?
Indeed, in we go. Abbasids and the HRE versus the English and the Mongols. It's going to be on Himeyama, very, very open map right here, and that's something that Canada has been able to leverage very nicely in the first 2 games. We're going to head into game number 3 here. Canada looking to stay undefeated here in the main event of Winter Team Championships. They will be the team with the color blue and teal spawning on the right side, and on the left side, now down 2 games fighting for their tournament life, Demu and Kiljardi with red and orange.
Yeah, you know, Lidicor, we kind of talked about the Abbasid versus Ayubids kind of pick. You know, a lot of people going Ayubids because of the versatility, whatever. Now Demu going with the Abbasids. In a team game situation, what do you really expect the Abbasids to really do?
I do not know yet. I feel like the problem is that we cannot really see the general style that Kiljardi and Demu wants to play because we haven't really seen them being allowed to play their style yet. So far, it's been Wham and Puppy Paw dictating the tempo of the game. And I wonder if on this map, Killjoy and Demu might just try to play a little slower. But at the same time, it's got to be mobility all over. We've actually seen the first series of the day, Himayama is a slaughterhouse for villagers. And it's even more exposed than, let's say, Baldland was. So if you are either of these teams, you're looking for that mobility, you're looking for that opportunity to hit the opponent's eco and build a lead that way.
Yeah, and then we'll see if they're going to be able to do that. I mean, it's pretty interesting on Himiyama where we're fighting for a pond in the center. This pond is different from a 1v1 situation. 2v2, it spawns with a little bit more fish, so it might be advantageous for you to do it. Wham accidentally cancels one of those fish spawns over on the northwest side of the pond. But we'll be adding his own dock to face off against the Abbasids here. And Mongols, when you're talking about water play, especially in Dark Age, their ability to be aggressive and take down your dock, it's got to be better than most other civs. And we'll see if he's going to be able to do that. Don't see a barracks there right yet if he wants to put in a lot of damage. That's yet to be seen, but Killjardy is going to be the first one to Feudal Age, going to be adding the Auk and Chapel to him as Puppy Paw on the other side, going with the Council Hall. So we saw Abbey of the Kings last time. This time, a little Council Hall. Maybe we expect a little bit of feudal aggression coming out with the English with the Mongols.
Auk Chapel to open with for Killjardy. It's actually at a very nice spot. It's tucked away at the back, boosting the gold and the wood, probably touching the food under the town center as well. And one thing I want to highlight here is that we're not seeing that classic Dark Age rush from the Mongols. So this is full-on feudal, although it's going to be slightly delayed thanks to this little shenanigan here in the middle in terms of fishing. It's going to be a race between Demu and Wham, though, and this is a problem for Demu. He cannot expedite his feudal age progress. It's just what it is with the Abbasids. Whereas if you're Wham, you're trying to rush up that feudal age, so you secure that little pond and take away the little fishing from Demu.
Yeah, and I think it's nice with the teammate that you have also. You know, I mean, Puppy Paw with the English going with Council Hall, so he's going to be able to use Longbowman to kind of help him out. He will be able to take down, maybe do some good damage against naval ships if they happen to get aggressive on this pond as well. Where Killjardy, he's going with the Auk and Chapel. I'm curious to see if he actually makes any kind of feudal units. Demu going up with the economic wing. Again, just like you said, you can't change it. Minute 45, whether you like it or not. So we'll see. I mean, he's going to be on the back foot compared to where Wham is going to be with his landmark. He's going to go up with Deer Spoons, but he can rush that thing.
Exactly. You see Economy Wing now coming in. For now, it's head-to-head, but if Wham really wants to beat his opponent to Feudal Age, he has the tools to do so. He can commit more villagers to it. I don't know if he really wants to, because at the end of the day, we're talking about 1 or 2 fishing boats in the middle. It's not like this is, you know, is set up where everybody has a dozen fishing boats, and it's crucial to nail that timing and start getting ahead in terms of combat ships. Puppy Paw is also taking a slightly slower approach to this game here, committing to some early farms. Of course, it's an investment, but at the same time, we're looking at a very open map. So if you get those farms going, you're going to have a nice and compact eco that's a little bit more difficult to raid.
Yeah, and you know, English wasn't a pick that I necessarily thought was good on Himiyama, but I can understand why it is now, because all of the food sources, including the dock, obviously in the middle of the map, but all of the food sources, the deer, the berries, the boar, it's all out in front. It's all out in the middle. You have maybe one berry patch in the back, but that's kind of it. So if you're able to get those farms, you're able to get them cheaper, it just means you don't need to go out there, right? And that's exactly what might end up happening as he's got a little bit of extra farms here. He's got some longbowmen making their way over, taking pot shots at the fishing boat. They're going to be the first military unit here, so maybe they could dictate what happens to this pond.
Yeah, longbows are great when it comes to sniping and harassing ships. In fact, they actually outrange some of the combat ships out there as well. There is going to be just naval arrow slits coming in here for Wham. That's basically all. The real question is what's going to happen on land, however, because this little skirmish, it's nice and neat, but really, it's a small boost to either player's economy. It's going to be more relevant to see what happens to these longbows when they arrive to the enemy base. And the first thing I'm noticing, Tim, here is Killjardy is going spears and archers with the HRE. which is not your usual opening. In fact, it's very rare to see an HRE player going for such a composition unless it's like heavily forced out of them.
Yeah, I mean, do you think though? I'll answer this with another question. Do you think it is technically being forced on them just because of Demu's dock being in danger?
I was wondering the same thing. Like, I don't know how much of this is a response and how much of this is the deliberate go-to game plan from the very beginning. I do want to say that it's probably some sort of a response out here. Although, keep in mind that the addition of the Spearman for Killjoy means that they anticipated cavalry from the Mongols early on. So maybe it's just a read on the opponent's game plan and part adaptation. But at the same time, this is not something that they want to sustain for a long time. I feel like Archer Spearman is just kind of a waste of the abilities of the HRE.
Yeah, I mean, with those, because they're foot soldiers, you get a little bit of that forced march, right? They're a little faster, but they're not exactly unique units. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. Keshiks from Wham are going to be able to heal if they're at a little bit of decreased HP, but we'll be able to take down that dock. And it looks like Demu is largely given up on it. Killjardy looks like he's continuing to push in the feudal age, and there's a couple men-at-arms that we're seeing out of them. It looks like the first one is getting queued. He wanted to stabilize just a little bit before he's going to be able to do that. But for Puppy Paw in that council hall, just because it was the first one up, just because of the tempo and the ability for you to push out as many longbowmen as you can, they really do have the initiative.
I think the concern if you're Demo and Killjardy is that, again, you're starting to see a pattern where Puppy Paw and Wham are dictating the tempo of the game. And remember, Puppy Paw is not only on this aggression. In fact, he's been building up a farming eco behind this. So there seems to be a lot more longevity in the game plan of Wham and Puppy. They have this little pond. It's a nice boost to the economy of Wham. They do have the farming eco as well. And I feel like, again, HRE, they want to go to Castle. They want to pick up those relics for Ragnit's Cathedral. They want to go to Imperial. I think, frankly, the worst thing that can happen with an HRE player is being stuck in Feudal Age.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about their economy being good, right? And they're able to push out a lot of units in Feudal, but you're exactly right. Their power spike comes later, right? Getting those relics at 160 gold per minute out of that Ragnit's going to be helpful. Maybe he's trying to establish a little bit of map control before he's able to do that, right? I mean, obviously, in a team game, you're going to find some more relics, but if you don't have any of the map at your control, it's going to be largely difficult. Wham trying to get a little bit of a raid in on the Abbasid dynasty. I don't think for the Abbasids, I'm not sure if they got a second town center up or even started building it. Maybe that was just the first mining camp because Demu's sitting on 0 stone. Now you're just a normal 1 TC Abbasid, and that doesn't scare anybody.
Keshik plus Longbowman, it's kind of your Knight plus Archer style approach here. You do have a single Camel Archer from Demu to debuff all this cavalry, but it could be sniped easily by the Longbows. And this is the big problem that you're facing if you're Demu and Killjardy. You don't have a lot of safe resources on this map. You need that map control, and that's where the English come into play. Notice how Demu has to flee to secure more food. Whereas Puppy Paw is always going to have that safe food near the town center as a consequence of the farms. I gotta say, the Canadians did such a good job picking civilizations for these maps. It's every single pick that they had synergizes so well with the features of the maps.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if they just play, honestly, because they're brothers, they share half the genetic code, they just play so well together. You know, I mean, they have an idea of what the other one is going to do. I've seen a lot of their 2v2s just when they make content, when they're streaming them. And a lot of the times, it's just a tacit understanding that these guys have. And Wham going to be trying to take that fight with the Keshiks, Longbowmen, on the back end. Horsemen from Demu trying to get us around, but not quite enough horsemen to be able to do that. Longbowmen have to back up. Doesn't look like there's enough spearmen. Longbowmen doing a good job of trying to take them down. I don't know if the Keshiks have a particular counter right now.
There was only 2 spearmen in this whole army since, like, the beginning. The initial volleys from the Longbows cleaned up most of those spears, and these Keshiks simply had no opponents. They were able to stand and fight in that cluster simply because there wasn't very many spearmen to be worried about. And once the Camel Archer, the single Camel Archer, got sniped by the Longbows, this fight was just favoring these Keshiks so well. And there's a second wave coming in behind this. army count is still slightly in the favor of Demu and Killjardy, but the army value is starting to swing in the favor of the Canadians. And we've got some men-at-arms coming in from Killjardy. I'm not so sold on that. I think men-at-arms are expensive, and they're not contributing much to these fights here. So many longbows out there. It's almost a one-shot. And you also have the Keshik, and I think that's the big problem. You don't really have anything that deals with the Keshik right now.
Yeah, those men-at-arms for the feudal for Killjardy, they're not really that. They're not going to put fear into me. You know, those feudal age men-at-arms, because they don't have, especially with longbowmen having that one extra damage, right? You could really cut through a men-at-arm, and you could kite them as well, especially against Keshik's going to be able to do a lot of that damage and even absorb some of that damage back with their vampiristic tendencies of getting that +3 every time they get a hit. Puppy Paw in the back, this is the crazy thing about English, man. You're able to get all of these longbowmen, and he's sitting on almost 40 longbowmen, while at the same time getting that farm economy. The only thing he's going out for right now is gold. The wood is relatively safe. That might change for Himiyama, but it's very frustrating where you're dealing with English. Even in the feudal age, you want to try to counter-raid them. You want to try to get back in the game, but there really isn't anywhere to go. Killjardy also realizing there isn't anywhere to go either. Keshik's taking down just about every villager, making them run around. Killjardy's going to have to back up and add some kind of reinforcement up in here with a lot of these archers. But those golden Aachen fields that are supposed to be so great, when they're vacant like that, they're not doing anything.
And it's again a story of mobility in this game. Wham has 20 Kashik roaming the map, looking for opportunities to hit the eco. On the opposing side, you have a very static composition here. Both Killjardy and Demu are heavy into archers. Really, the only player with any kind of mobility is Demu with those few horsemen and camel archers. He's trying to get more horsemen out on the field, which I think is the right thing to do. And I absolutely love this counterattack. In fact, he could find a lot here. There are a bunch of gold miners. There are a bunch of hunters out there. This is exactly what Demu needs to do to get back into this game.
And what he's doing right now is Cal just flashed over, getting another town center, right? For the Abbasids, that's what everybody is afraid of. You know, going this 3 TC Abbasid and this massive boom Abbasid, and you're like, well, I can't compete with this economy because of how well they're going to be able to do it. Wham on the other side, trying to get an outpost here, will have to back up. And now Demu first notices that Wham is trading. This is not a drill, ladies and gentlemen. Wham is trading. I don't know how many donkeys he's got out there, but because he's got the map control, he might have a safe trade site. Again, using the resources that he's given on the map.
Uh-oh. This could be an ugly push, though. Remember, it's a slow-moving composition on the other side. It's only Demu back at home here. Barely anything to deal with the Kashik, and the archers are just getting mauled. Villagers, as they flee, they do get cleaned up as well. And Killjardy is closing in, but it might just be too late. This is a beautiful fight here for the Canadians, and it might just be the one that takes them to the semifinals.
I think it just might be. Wham and Puppy Paw say, okay, I'm ready to take this fight. I'm taking a look at the spearman count from Killjardy. He's got 9 total to 20 Keshiks that are over there. And Puppy Paw and Wham have the superior archer in the longbowman. He's got almost 50 out on the battlefield. Whether they're in this main front of this fight, I'm not really sure, but only 1 or 2 horsemen from Demu ain't gonna do it. The Keshiks are making quick work of them as well. Villagers, again, remaining idle. Spearmen and men-at-arms trying to chase those longbowmen, but that's not a good idea. A lot of them end up going down. So, yeah, Puppy Paw and Wham are backing up, but my God, the amount of damage they were able to do here.
Yeah, they're up by 14 eco now, and they've done a really good job sniping off all the spears. So keep in mind, they're backing off for the time being. They're trying not to overstay their welcome. But at the same time, many archers fell for Killjardy. Even more importantly, he's down to 6 spears. In fact, Demu and Killjardy combined for 6 spearmen against 23 Kashiks. And at the same time, look at this. Puppy Paw wasn't all in on this by any means. He's aging up to Castle Age, and he preserved his army. He's going to be at 42 veteran longbows in a blink of an eye. And at the same time, he's supported by a substantial force of Kashik as well.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when you're dealing with feudal age units, like they're gonna be, with those longbowmen having, I'm pretty sure it's 8 damage base without the steeled arrow and lack thereof. Getting those abilities, plus with the +2, getting 10, the feudal age army, men-at-arms, horsemen, I don't really care what he makes. They're gonna go down. Killjardy trying to go up with the Regnants, trying to get some Castle Age units, but I think it's gonna be a little too late. because he's not going to be able to get the mass to really stop this. Puppy Paw does have the resources to continue to go up, adding that King's Palace as a second town center, which is helpful. Kiljardi losing more villagers. It's just been idle time and running around with these villagers as well. This is tough.
Yeah, he actually saves one of those villagers, but at the same time, he's being pulled all the way to the north. And remember, if he's chasing this force, it means that it will take so much time to get to Demu's base. And this is what Puppy Paw and Wham have been doing so well throughout this series. Stretch away the attention of the opponent, or just in general stretch the field with the cavalry, and then let your teammate do the dirty work. That's what's going to happen here. Kiljardi had to go up there, and now Kiljardi is far away from this battlefield. In fact, he might have to face those Keshik alone, while at the same time, Puppy Paw is pushing up with the longbows here. I'm not the biggest fan of this fight here for Wham, but it looks like he's still taking it, and he's actually winning this.
Yeah, you know, I really don't mind the fight, even if he ended up not being victorious from it, because Kiljardi just went Castle Age. It's before all of those upgrades came in, right? So all those spearmen end up going down. And now Kiljardi, he's going to get some of these Castle Age upgrades, but he's not going to be able to have anything to upgrade. There is that critical longbowman mass just hovering around Demu's base, looking for a villager to put an arrow through. And hopefully they'll be able to find it. Maybe there's a town center up on the northern side. Demu trying to get some of that trade. Yeah, that looks like a big eco pocket over there on the north side. You got some wood line that's there. You got a town center. It might not be long for this world if they end up finding it.
I love the bait trade here from the Canadians. I don't think their go-to plan is to build a massive trade here. The map is just way too open. But one of the issues that you face when you trade, or one of the issues that you have when you face trade, as the Keshik do dive in with little resistance, one of the things with trade is that you don't really know how much your opponent has early game, so it kind of drags away the attention of Demu and Kiljardi a little. I don't think it's a major player right here, but it's a nice little detail from the Canadians. The bigger thing is all this kind of a push into the base of Demu here. He's trying to age himself with the military wing. That's something that's actually seen on the building. So Wham and Puppy Paw know fully well that his opponents, or their opponents, are aging up.
Yeah, and because of that, they know it's their time to strike, right? You have that longbowman, at least a couple of them, just knowing that that town center's there. Demu's hometown center trying to take down some of these Keshiks, but now Puppy Paw's trying to get outposts around. You might be thinking, well, it's outposts, it's not a big deal. Getting network of castles, getting that plus percentage to those longbowmen. You think they deal damage now. You have no idea what it's going to be like when those longbowmen start glowing. And Wham going up to Castle Age as well, a curl tie and an English outpost with longbowmen, just get out.
It's the army count that's concerning here for Demu and Kiljardi. Especially when you combine it with the fact that you have 27 Kashik roaming the map, and they will strike wherever they please. If they don't like a fight, they will disengage and go for the eco. The longbows are less flexible in that regard, but as you said, this is a nasty death ball here. And Demu, he's a little slow to react to this. A couple of villagers will fall on the berries as well. Considerable eco lead now for Wham and Puppy Paw. Men at Arms, they should be decent in cleaning this one up, but I would expect Puppy Paw to just mix in a couple of crossbows or just say, well, I've got 80 longbows. I'm one-shotting these dudes no matter how much armor they have on them.
Oh my god, yeah, the quote-unquote counter, right? Now shoot 20% faster and see what happens. Men at Arms, you might be thinking, you know, well, you know, they have a lot of ranged armor, it could be a good idea. Maybe not so much. Obviously, when you have 10 men at arms to 50 longbowmen, I don't really care what men at arms they are. They probably will be going down, don't get me wrong. But the ability for them to do it just so quickly and so easily. And now that they have Rams here, Wham just went to Castle Age, got that veteran Keshik upgrade. They can't avoid this fight any longer, right? Demu was trying to get some raids on the trade, and Kiljardi was trying to mass up a force or whatever. You have to take this fight. If you don't take this fight, your villagers are dead, your Akin Chapel's gone, everything's gone. So you got to take it. We're in a 2v1 situation here. Kiljardi fending for himself over there on the northern side. They basically split the teammates of RCN, and now Demu coming back on the south side. And they're going to do what they can. He's got some horsemen, he's got some camel riders, maybe a little bit of veteran archers, depending on if composite bowmen got researched by the Abbasid dynasty. But I don't think there's enough for it to matter, Lidakor.
It certainly isn't. The thing is that by the time these guys arrived, Kiljardi had very, very little. Even if you were to combine the two armies perfectly for Kiljardi and Demu, it wouldn't have been enough. It's a death ball of 60 longbows, and most importantly, 25 well-upgraded heavy cavalry units. And there are no crossbows on the other side. There are no spears on the other side. There was absolutely nothing that deals with the cash shake. Now, Kurultai is rolling up, and it's going to park right next to the enemy TC here.
That is a get out of my game, Kurultai. That is a face Kurultai right in front of that starting town center. And yeah, he can't move it. There's nothing you could do. Villagers are going to be trying to go out. Maybe those Keshiks might be going over there, take care of some farms. Kiljardy's like, I am quite done. I see that Kurultai, and that is enough for me, brother. Demu follows suit, and it's a sweep going for the Team Canada Puppy, Wham, and Blade. We're going to be seeing them in the semifinals, Lidakor. This game, I mean, we talked about, hey, there was, in the past couple games, there was this aggression. It didn't do anything. It was blah, blah, blah. It was this. Puppy Paw and Wham just like took the game from the first minute, in my opinion. There wasn't any kind of aggression. There wasn't any kind of hold. There wasn't whatever. They just set the tone and didn't let go.
I gotta agree with you. The key thing is setting the tone. All three games, they have been the tempo setters. And almost every instance of a fight in these games felt like they are the ones forcing the response out of the opponents. And if you can continuously do that, you're always going to be successful. Same goes for 1v1s. The players that can set the tempo of the games, the ones that can force moves from the opponent, they are the ones that are going to win games simply because you know that you have a lead right now. You're forcing your opponent to do something, and you are getting ready to deal with that response already. That's exactly what the Canadians did exceptionally well. And I think if they can maintain this throughout the remaining rounds, they're going to be one of the candidates to be the champion. Canadians, I think, when you look at the teams still in the tournament, a lot of players or a lot of people have been saying, listen, Canadians, easily a candidate to win it all. I think we've seen a glimpse of why today.
Yeah, I mean, you can't stress enough the setting the tone, and that's the kind of proactivity, especially in Age of Empires 4, that made me fell in love with the game. It's like, hey, they would from that minute one when they put that dock up, Puppy Paw and Wham are like, this is my game, this is my series, this is my map, come take it from me. And they weren't able to do that, continuing to push the initiative. It also helps when they have such a strong morale leader like Blade as their number 3. So big shout out to Blade 55555 and a big shout out to RCN as well, doing the best they can into the quarterfinals. But that next series in the semis, Canada and Elephant, it's gonna be crazy, dude.
That was the most American thing you've done today.
USA.
Just like, oh yeah, but we're here as well, by the way. You know, we really shout out to Blade. I know he's watching the chat. The boys all long. But what a series here for the Canadians. I mean, I love the way you guys described that. I think, you know, Lidko, you're talking about this, the fact that they were aggressive, tempo controlling from the very beginning. I want to say a little bit different than what they're known for in 1v1s. I mean, I like to tease Wham at the moment. Regularly when I'm streaming, I'm like, Wham's walls are incoming. Like in a meta where no one else can wall, he finds a way to enclose himself. But I guess when you have a map this big, when you have maps like Gorge, Himeyama, you have to play aggressive, and they prove they play it well.
They certainly did, and I feel like it's not just a matter of playing aggressive. It's a how do you play aggressive. It was different flavors of aggressiveness that we've seen. Gorge, play around the Zushi, slow-moving composition, but it's a map where you spawn very close. You can leverage that. Game number 2, Baldland, you played a fast castle. In fact, in that game, it was RCN who played that initial Fuel Age aggro, but again, using the features of the map, the distance between the two opposing teams, you get the Castle Age, and then you start dictating the tempo with Camel Lancers. And then here, it was just a super classic cavalry plus archer play, really.
Mm-hmm.
This, as we do have the series highlights coming in here, it started all out like this, super aggressive. And I actually said this at the very beginning of the game when I saw that aggression coming, like, this is how you want to go into the series. You just want to say, hey, I'm here, and if you don't fight back, I'm just going to steamroll you in 15 minutes.
And maybe a little bit greedy from RCN's draft in both, especially game 1 and 3, I'd say, Tim, right? Like this opening game, double fast castle is kind of wild on a map like Gorge. Then in game 3, was it a Bassett's HRE? It kind of feels like Dimu and Kiljadi were looking for that comfortable mid game, but it never came.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, KP. And I alluded to it when Wham was playing Mally and Puppy Paw was playing Ayubid, where if you're gonna be aggressive, you gotta, or if you want to be defensive, if you want to be greedy, you gotta pass the baton back and forth. If both of you are gonna be greedy at the same time, then no one's gonna come save you because you don't have military, right? So
Mm.
if you have one civ getting greedy, going for the fast castle, the other civ just making some kind of map presence, it takes the weight off of you, at least a little bit, to get you the time to get to castle and do these things. And you see, because of that, Puppy Paw had all of those Camel Lancers in game 2 as you're watching them go across the screen. Demu and Kiljardi, they kind of had this game plan of, are we going to greed this game or are we not? And it was an all in, both greed or both not.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed in RCM because what they've just done here is they've given a Delhi loss, so now all of the Delhi mains that are like, no, 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 Civ, no, 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 it's totally balanced, please don't hide. It now they've got proof. What have you done? Like, all of a sudden, Elephantos that are never meant to lose, but they end up losing here. I mean, incredibly well played. And, commiserations to Dimu and Kiljadi. I mean, maybe they need to slap Voldemar in there for a game, mix it up a little, bring in the kid. But I think the big thing here that is kind of like a takeaway is there's potential, right? Like we saw that actually in the Chimp series. It was kind of crazy. I
Hmm.
felt like we're going to have a much closer set today because of the fact that Dimu and Kiljadi, for moments in that series against Beastie and Marine Lord, looked like they had them on the ropes.
They certainly did. And when you look at this series or as a whole, Canada now looking like an absolute candidate to win it all. But then again, you do have the chimps out there who've been champions of previous team game events, two of the most accomplished AoE for esports players out there, Marine Lord and Beastie. And this is going to be an absolutely beautiful series coming up, KP. The chimps against Vortex and Lucifron. When you look at the accomplishments in competitive AoE4, you have some of the most accomplished players in the history of AoE4 crammed into a single team game series.
Yeah, and it feels like right now we are just seeing the top level players crammed into those semifinals so far, right? From China, of course, we've got the Elephant Boys that I think a lot of people would expect to see this deep. Now, of course, the Canadians joining them. Dimu and Kiljadi not there. A bit of a mixed bag. I think Ben hasn't really been able to crack that top 4 in the S tier tournaments for a while. It has been a bit frustrating. Kiljadi has been rising, but not quite there yet. Then we think about that Chimps versus the Vortex, Lucifron, those are going to be very intriguing games, right? I think there's a big question mark now about whether KQP can recover, folks, because they got absolutely spanked by Louis and CSO. There's no other term for it in the group stage. It was a 3-0 washout. Only one of those games, I'd say, really looked that competitive from them, and I think that was a big jolt, a wake-up call. I mean, Vortex, who was playing in the midweek musters, he's taken a break from them to focus on this. A few players actually did to focus on this weekend. So we're gonna have to see if they've aligned the stars to come together. I mean, it might be a boon, a benefactor from Chimps's perspective, or rather, Chimps's, shall we say, weakness. That obviously Beastie's been busy with World of Warcraft, and then Marine Lord has been busy leaving Discord calls when they're meant to be communicating. So we might end up with a much closer series there than would be first anticipated.